I'm the Master Quick Rabbit. I'm the chocolate milk bunny. I give chocolate milk to the kids. I deliver the goods. I deliver the goods.
Are you hungry? Why not have some Pringles? Come on in and purchase the chip. Come enjoy these crisps. What's that? You're going to get Doritos instead? Really? I think you have the audacity to buy another brand of chips. You'll regret that purchase.
This is the greatest day of my life! Ocean vision, taking baby,
There's a bunch of guys who's a bunch of bullshit.
Welcome to the CityCast Game Design Spectacular. I'm Jeff. Corey, what's your name?
Corey. What's your name, Jeff?
We have Chris.
Hey, I'm just sitting here. I'm not a game designer.
Tom Folk.
Hey,
game
guys.
designer and new grand founder extraordinaire. And brand new to the podcast, Michael
Big Ugly
Swain.
Swain!
Swain.
It's the Swain.
The Swain.
The
Creator of Blockhead 2.
Blockhead 2.
I have a question. Did you do Blockhead's voice?
Yes, I did.
And you still need Blockhead's voice?
Kind of, yeah. I cheated. I pitch bent it like one step up.
Oh, you were a fag. You
One step.
cheated?
One step.
Sick
Yeah, but you
bastard.
couldn't. It's not hard.
You're not pure?
No, I'm not a purist.
Can we hear
I'm a
Can we
vocal
hear your
manipulator.
Blockhead?
Hi! Hello!
Hey.
Whoa.
See, I don't
It's
need
like the
it,
real
but
Blockhead is right here.
Originally, when I did that, I always envisioned him having the voice of a child, not like this weird, messed up, like adult trying to do a high-pitched voice thing. But I think it added kind of a creepy thing. So I was like,
I always thought like he was on the verge of schizophrenia. Because his like.
oh yeah, he is. That's 100% correct. Yeah.
Really?
The idea is his house is really an asylum. The conscience is his medication.
Really?
And yeah, it's one of those behind the scenes. I think when we were working on the chain game, whose name won't be mentioned on the podcast. I think I explained some of that to him once.
Should we cover
Our
that
side
briefly?
scroller called
about it.
CCB.
Talk about it.
I don't even know how we hooked up to make that game in the first place now. I just finished the Mastermind World Concord game, which did okay. I really had a taste for game design. I wanted to jump back into it. Like, it was based on the board game Mastermind, where you get 6 different colored pegs and you have to like create combinations of 4 and guess what the other guy's combo was by clues he gives you. And that was a game owned by Preston Toys, and they didn't like that I made that. But they couldn't do much with it because you can't copyright game rules. You can't do it. I learned this in the process of getting a cease and desist, but you haven't made it on Newgrounds until you
trolling
send a
board
cease
game
and desist. But I like the game, but you can't copyright game rules, and we designed our own board. It didn't look in any way. The interface was nothing like their board game, so they had no case.
Even though they didn't have a case, they still fuck it.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, you can freely send cease and desist letters. Like, and you never know how willing they are to like go through with it.
We were talking about your first game, CCB.
Yeah. Like, eventually we're getting to CCB. It was supposed to be a satirical, not racist, but poking fun at American racism towards Japanese games.
Let's start from here. I think
type of game?
we wanted to make a game. I think we're both infatuated with the show Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, Ninja Warrior with Most Extreme Challenge.
What,
also,
really?
I think, right?
MXC is like Trump's Ninja Warrior. My opinion, Ninja Warrior was
there's more laugh factor. Like, it's hilarious. Ninja Warrior is where you go for that like feel good, like every man did it, or that small girl that did it for the American one not that long
they
ago.
get to the wall and
It
they
blew it
just
away.
like fall on their face. And then they have this like build up to like these losers.
Takeshi's Castle.
We wanted to make a
that's what it
game
is.
Yeah.
with like a clumsy, dumb American.
Yeah, we wanted to
that
mash
runs
it all
really
in.
hard obstacle
It's
course.
a really good idea.
So
So why did you set it?
let's just cut to it. We called it Ching Chong Beautiful. All right.
I'm so sorry,
Yes,
Tom.
you heard that correctly.
We should have listened.
Yeah, Tom,
only me is embarrassed, but-
Tom, yeah, to Tom's like credit, he's like, you know what, guys? I think we just sabotaged ourselves somehow.
Little subtle things
Now,
that are outright, which fine, that's fine. Like subtle.
we had dialogue. There were lines about zipper heads.
That's where I got
Then I made a stage.
I think we cut that one.
I
didn't
made
we?
a crater stage where Nagasaki was.
Boy.
That was on me.
Uh-oh. Yeah, there's a crater stage. There's a big like desert based out of a nuclear crater.
Yeah.
Which, if you look on the map of Japan where the stage is, it's in Hiroshima.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's tasteless. That's not evil. It's just tasteless.
I remember getting super invested in Ching Chong. I wanted to fucking beat it.
Yeah.
That was so hard at first.
It was, yeah.
You
It was
like
pretty
master
terrible.
the controls eventually, and then you actually like, oh wait, I'm not actually playing the game. And then you realize you have to collect like the fucking like fish books or something, and then you're just like,
Yeah, once you get through easy mode,
Awesome.
yeah, and the game just cuts off. It's like, sorry, you want
it blows my mind.
this game's not for
It
babies.
blows my mind, Tom. You're like,
It just makes you go back to the beginning.
these games, the games you release and stuff, like when Alien Homicide came out, Homicide,
Alien Homicide.
But it's like that game came out, it just kicked my fucking ass. I didn't know what to do. I was like,
It reminded me of Contra. It made me
yeah,
really
the
mad.
first time I played it, I was just like, this will be fun. I just got mowed down by
Yeah, it's
like,
like the game is a death sentence.
security, and I was just like, oh fuck. Like even that fucking robot game, Cathode Robots. or
Wait,
whatever.
okay, Robot.
You get people coming in and they just make like the hardest shit ever. You're just like, oh my god, I want to rip my fucking
These
head
are all
off. I
games that
can't
you all
do
made
this.
here, right?
Yeah, so far,
So
yeah.
wait,
Robot was
Ching Chong
used to
Beautiful
go.
was like your second coding.
I think, okay, so, right, I had
It's
swapped
one of the
after I
best
finished Mastermind World Conqueror. That was my first time making a game. I never programmed in Flash before outside of, like, preloaders. That
So
was it.
yeah, so when you made
And menus.
when you made World Conqueror and you released it, how many like bugs were there?
Oh, plenty, all the time. Like, one of the big game-breaking ones was that sometimes enemies would just run off the map and just keep going forever. Nowadays, I could fix this in a second, but it was hard to test because you're working in Flash. That's the nature of the beast. And, the game-breaking bug was, like, they would just run off. And so you're always under attack, is what your thing says. You can continue to play, but your game never autosaves. So you're basically stuck there until you buy another base and, like, evacuate this one, but then you lose the base forever.
You know what you said
pretty bad.
they ran off the screen? Did you ever see the Lord of the Rings 2 DVD commentary?
For the movies?
Yeah.
I watched all those. A Lonely Day in College.
Do you remember the part where like we made these like army simulators, and then and then we noticed that some of the orcs were deserting their battlefield and they were running into the forest.
Yeah, that's right. Like when you see the battle of Mordor, like when they're doing the flashbacks to the
They
humans
thought they
fail.
had created like artificial intelligent fear.
Right. What they had done was badly programmed a really crappy AI
And the
simulation.
DVD commenters are saying it though, like they created like real life.
Because to be fair, you can't animate like hundreds of thousands of guys all fighting at the same time. It's an
Yeah.
amazing feat that they did this.
Yeah.
But then they're marveling at the birth of their new creation, which is not a movie about a guy that they're rolling over in his grave right now.
Yeah, I just forgot.
And his book creation, but no, instead they've given birth to new life.
Yeah.
Those guys are idiots.
To back up a second, I think that there was a lot of great stuff in that game. The thing that sucked the
one?
most
Ching
was
Chong Beautiful?
the thing that sucked the most was we made it on like fairly average good speed running computers, and then it just ran slow for a lot of people.
I remember I couldn't even export the game again. I could test it, but every time I went to go export it, the game would break for me. Like it would fail exporting.
Yeah.
So we had you doing it on your Mac. My PC was just failing at this.
Yeah.
And running the game in general
I just
also
remember
was
exporting files in Flash was a fucking nightmare.
yeah.
Tom, I think that was like the main reason I ever went to YouTube. Was like to upload a cartoon to Newgrounds, you had to make a cartoon in such a way that you know that after I think it was 14,000 frames, it starts to crash or something. But you also had to code in that add API, which was a piece of shit, and the preloaders were a piece of shit. And if you wanted it to like stop after the cartoon, you had to, like,
Calm down like Xanax. You're mad cause I ran through your bitch like an Amtrak. Now the pussy bleeding. Stole her a Tampax. Her man was real mad, so I had to cut the man slack.
Yes,
Thinking
that's what I
if
meant to say. Is
Yeah,
swivel.
Mike's thing, right?
Swivel is
was
a
fucking
Yo,
it's a
calm
flash
down like Xanax. You're mad cause I ran through your bitch like an Amtrak. Now the pussy's bleeding. Stole her a Tampax. Her man was real mad, so I had to cut the man slack. Thinking if he ran back, crack his head with his damn back. Last man standing. Lay strong like a ransom damn track. About to come through like a demo PlayStation cause I'm jam packed. Start liking my rhymes fair. Touch it, bring it, pay it, touch it, let you hit the format.
And you see
Don't be mistaken, I hit the pussy twice and I ate it like some bacon.
know how to that had to be the way a web animation
I
started.
think I probably saw it's so universal. Like when you go to sites and just free games, you're like, this is Newgrounds preloader, so you know immediately that it's these people just stole assets from games and just used the preloader because it's there. And it's you had different versions. You had Christmas versions. You also had one that just automatically plays, which a lot of spam people use, me included. You wait for it to load and then suddenly just your speakers explode because there's just static and noise immediately after. And I don't think I ever made my own because I tried following tutorials and stuff because I used to go to Newgrounds for oh, I want to make a game. I'll just use Newgrounds tutorials. They'll teach me how to do basic
Pull
coding
my
and
hair
stuff.
out that shit.
But then these people, they're wrong, and people in the comments are your tutorial didn't help me. You got all your stuff wrong, and they were just fuck you in the comments. It's nothing ever changed. So there was always something in the back of my mind. But
when you guys started designing your games, what was the first problems you ran into that you never thought of?
What about the details of the running and stuff? How did that come along? Because there are so many bits of details. Running on water causes you to start slipping and sliding, so you have to
and Changshan?
Yeah. First, I guess to fire off the answer to Chris's thing, I know that one of the biggest problems, easy to just turn Flash into a punching bag. It's really, really easy to do that. But yeah, not knowing that the further you go into a game and you can't back off, you're not having a problem with the game, you're having a problem with the Flash cannot handle something of that size.
Right.
I had that problem with Project Nexus 1. Ching Chong Beautiful was no different. I'm glad that we stopped the game right where we did with the content we had. Fine for a Flash game, didn't need any more stages, and we could have been really unlucky if there was one more stage we were trying to shove in there. And if Flash had just said, no, it's just not going to happen, we're not going to export it. Your assets are going to get swapped around and messed up, and hopefully we'll talk about that later.
That happened with Final Fantasy VII, where they got to a point where they're this is so buggy, we're just going to release it the way it is, because if we add anything else, it's just going to break it more. And
it's mystifying that would be how that works. You think that you write the code, and that the more code you write, it's not that one new piece of code is screwing something else up. That happens all the time. It's that the engine or platform that you're using just can't handle it, and then things start to break apart for entirely different reasons.
Yeah, certain memory loads weird, because even in levels, it's what is destroying the game, and you find out it's just one movie clip that has a little too much frames in just that one area. And I never understood how to do scenes in Flash and how to put all that shit together.
It's also scary when you're all working with different computers.
Oh, yeah.
So Jeff will draw something in CS3 on a Mac and then hand it to me, and I'll open it in CS 5.5 on a PC, and I have no idea what weird shit is breaking in that file.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still using and he which is weird too, because you use a Mac and I still use a Windows, so we can somehow in some weird circular swap between a Mac to a Windows to a Mac to a Windows. And it's weird because Flash kind of stopped making stuff after kind of prior to that. Flash 8 is for CS3, and then CS4 is CS3, then CS6 is CS4 and 5 or whatever, and it just sort of does that.
The down saving?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to swap between.
That is the biggest.
You have to leapfrog from episode to episode of this stupid program.
It is the
For
worst.
people who don't know what that is, if you've got Flash 4, you can't open Flash 5 files, so you gotta go into Flash 5 on someone's computer and down save it to a CS4 format.
Exactly.
But the big problem is if you have CS3, I need to also own CS4. I need to save a CS5 to CS4, then open CS4 and save it down to CS3. So you have to own every.
Yes,
you have to own every copy
and you
of
have
Flash
to
that comes
own it
between
because they even made it now so the fucking publish settings won't even open if you don't own it. So you actually physically have to own CS4 in order to downgrade it from CS4 to CS3 to give it to somebody to downgrade that or upgrade that.
I think they finally fixed that.
I hope so.
I think in CS 5.5 and 6 it says you're opening a file that's different.
I think for later versions they did
Yeah.
try to fix that. But
To me, Flash was always it was just MS Paint, but with tools you can use that make pictures move and stuff. MS
you're not
Paint
wrong.
with a picture, because it's very basic.
And we could start like talking about like the visuals, like problems.
Yeah, because I'm working in 3D. Chris has got some opinions on 3D too. He's been
things like
he's been working on Blender.
When you start making the game, you notice the more detailed your characters, the more you really feel like you can't get away with. For example, if there's like an idle animation, and the character's standing there, and a run. It looks weird. Like you can't get away with what people used to get away with on 8-bit Nintendo games, where there's like stand, run, jump. Now we have to like make little transitions between every move.
Just like tiny transitions, like a 1-frame fucking transition, but it somehow all comes together in the end, and it's just like, how the fuck does this work? But then you just like, I'm just gonna mimic this, just like I used to do in the past, and it's gonna be perfect.
I mean,
and it's
Ching
like,
Chong Beautiful had the same thing. Like we swayed through in all these transitions. We had so many frames of animation.
Well, first you kind of decide what is the character going to do, and there were no transitions in the beginning. The very first copy of the game, I know it's floating out there somewhere, I think it's in my Dropbox, is this stick figure with the basic engine of the character. I basically did all the like physics stuff in like 2 days, maybe a day. And it was broken as hell, and I tweaked it over time to get more contact points so the game would know if you got hit in the midsection or the feet or the head. There's different animations.
That's kind of like, for instance, when a character gets knocked down, depending if he gets knocked down forward, he falls on his stomach, but if he gets knocked back, he falls on his back. So it's context sensitive also to the movements, and that's really fucking cool because people don't usually pay. It's like, not to talk down upon in like these indie sprites games, but they usually like have like a. It's very simplistic. It's just like a 1-frame thing. It's like hurt, fall, down, up. And it's like 6 frames. And, things like Terraria, which is just like the characters move and it's just like this like skeleton that has this all connected to one part. So you could essentially like swap things out. These fucking characters, everything is hand-drawn.
That's one of the other challenges of all this, too, is you get, the better your animation is, you start getting into the Prince of Persia territory, which I always hated. It was so much about looking at all this beautiful animation that it took away your control over the character. Like, to me, it always felt like that. It didn't feel like twitchy.
You mean the first Prince of Persia?
Yeah.
The Sansa time one?
No, like the old 2D computer
Prince of Persia.
Yeah, like the animation was beautiful, but you could barely interrupt him.
If you like took the effort to stop for a moment and decide you wanted to move again, I hope you weren't going to be doing anything for the next couple minutes of your life because you're dedicating it to the
Let's talk about that. Like, if I animate a character, if I want to make the character jump, initially I would like make him crouch down, like you normally would see in an animation, and they like spring up and jump. But then
like
it doesn't really work in a game.
You have to dissect it.
Yeah, when you're about to get hit by a bullet, you don't want to see your guy crouch before he jumps. You want him off the ground as soon as possible.
There's that game, that Paul Robertson art, where they did that, where to no fault of his own, he animated the character crouching down and jumping, but they left that in the game, so it always feels like there's this annoying delay in the gameplay.
It'd be like Mario pausing for like a second before he jumps.
Right, because he's got to coil his legs up and then throw his momentum.
I don't mean to like.
Kingdom Hearts did do that.
I don't want to rag on Kingdom Hearts.
Hearts is so fucking.
But every single fucking time Sora's clunky ass jumped, he had to pause and then jump into the air like an asshole.
And
so
when he lands,
he also avoid anything.
When he lands,
he also had to have an animation of him recovering from his landing.
And that's a tough thing too, because sometimes you could say it's a part of the game. Like they learn these mechanics, they adapt around it. So there could be like a positive argument for some of it, but I prefer feeling as much control as possible.
When you
at all
jump,
times.
you want to jump immediately. You want that evasion. You don't want to have to know. Okay.
See, that's the thing, right? Have you played Abe's Odyssey or Heart of Darkness? It's like the same thing.
That's what I was about to say. Heart of Darkness.
It feels good in those though. But have you played GTA 4 or 5? Every time you're like turning around, like the character like stops and like skids on the ground, and then takes like a few seconds to start running back, and it always felt weird. Or if you're on like the side of a building in GTA 4 looking down, if you push up on the controller, he'll like he won't just like edge forward like in an old game. He'll like take a full step forward and he'll fall off every single time.
Yeah, or if you're like on the edge of a building and you're going forwards and you decide I want to jam the controller back, so now he walks towards me.
So now he'll like
you don't know, is he going to turn left and fall off the building? Is he going to turn right and go wide?
Because in Vice City it was coded like simply so like you tap W and he'll just take a really quick step forward and stop instantly. And then these games, they're like, we want to make them animated more, so they'll like take a full fucking walk around every time you try and just edge backwards.
Have you ever noticed on a PS3 controller, because I think I've had it happen on multiple controllers, the analog stick has like a spring back where it will actually, like if you're holding right and you release it, it springs back so far that your character points left.
What, really?
So like when I play Rogue Legacy now, I play it with like the plus pad, because I keep ending up in these situations where I'm facing the opposite way of an enemy, but I know it happened to me in Castle 2 on PS3, and I think I've had it happen like on multiple PS3s with multiple controllers. It's weird.
Like now it's like sensitive to the point where no matter where, like you actually move back.
Yeah, and part of that could be in the game code of because you can check the sensitivity of the controller. So we sort of have a variable that we set for our sensitivity level, so it's not like
there's only so much of that threshold where you start to move the stick where it
feels like the controller's
is
still sending too much info.
I always hated that too, like where you're like moving and then suddenly you stop and then there's like that wait period. And I also know what you're talking to, where it's like that 3D space where they have to like almost take a whole other walk around. So if you had to turn on an edge, you were already going off the
It's like
edge.
I've never gotten used to it. I've been like playing GTA 4 since it came out, and every time I'll push back on the control, he'll like walk around circle and always fall off.
Grand Theft Auto 3, it's like those games you're running like an asshole. You turned on a dime. Like
it's the same with Red Dead Redemption. It's like they're just super animated, so they'll always be running all over the place.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to do simple action.
Yeah, just like you guys, you're talking to